Mr. Sheedy, you are senior advisor to the Visa CEO?
Yes, sir.
The Visa CEO was too busy to come today?
He had a conflict, Senator. He knows that I enjoyed speaking with this committee 2 years ago and that I was looking forward to coming back, but he unfortunately was not able to be here today.
What was his conflict?
I honestly don't know what his conflict was, but I know he was unable to be here today.
But it was more important that he be somewhere else than here.
He was unable to be here today. He sends his regards.
Send them right back to him.
All right.
Look, I don't, if we had to vote on this bill today, I don't know how I would vote. But I want to thank the chairman for calling this hearing. I've learned a lot today. I've just got a couple of questions and then an observation. Professor, you seem to be fairly objective here. Congress capped the fees on debit cards. Is that correct?
That's correct, for certain transactions, yes.
The savings, has it been passed on to the consumer and or invested in the retailer's business?
Yes, so the average rate for...
Give me, I don't speak
Yes.
Sanskrit.
Yes,
Okay?
the answer is yes.
I need short answers. Is
Yes,
that a yes or a no?
yes.
Okay. And we addressed the issue in debit cards by regulating. We capped the fees. This bill doesn't cap fees like they do in Europe, as Senator Graham so eloquently pointed out. This bill just introduces competition.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, I really came today to watch Senator Hawley and to learn. But here's my observation. I'm going to cede my time to Senator Hawley. Let me just say this to all of you, but particularly our friends at Visa and Mastercard, and I mean it. I don't know how I would vote if this bill came up today. Visa and Mastercard and the folks, the retailers, need to sit down and work this out. You need to sit down and work this out. Because if you don't, Congress is going to do something. I'm not sure what we're going to do. But Visa and Mastercard, when we get through with you, you could end up looking like either the post office or the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not sure we'll get it right. And I'm not a big fan of the European model. That we're seeing the cost right now in Europe of their penchant for regulation. But what I do care is the fact that the high prices in this country are gutting the American people like a fish. And we're trying to address it. And my strong advice to you is to sit down and try to work this out and come up with a solution that's fair for the consumer, fair for the retailer, but also respects Visa and Mastercard. You're two great companies, and I appreciate that. But something's not adding up here. And next time, Mr. Sheedy, it's wonderful to see you. Ask your CEO to come. I know he's a busy, important man, but ask him to come.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on that point about Visa and MasterCard being successful businesses, I think you figured it out, haven't you? I mean, what's your profit margin, Ms. Kirkpatrick?
It's circa 50%.
Mr. Sheedy?
Slightly higher.
It's higher than 50% profit margin?
Slightly higher than MasterCard, yes.
Yeah, that's incredible. 50% profit margin. I mean, that's absolutely unbelievable. What's the answer to the Walmart question, by the way, that Senator Welch posed to you? What's Walmart's interchange fee that you negotiate with them?
I don't have it with me today.
You don't have any idea whatsoever? Is it higher or lower than 2.5%?
Walmart negotiates their rates based on the business that they do with us.
Meaning they're big, they're really big, they're gigantic, so they get a better deal than Mr. Callahan or most small businesses in Missouri. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, Senator, we have volume discounts that we offer to some merchants. I suspect Walmart is one of them. And I don't believe that it's commercially unreasonable to get an arrangement where, in exchange for more volume, a merchant can qualify for lower rates?
Well, I'm sure it's not commercially unreasonable for Walmart, or certainly it's in their financial interest and in yours, but I doubt it's in Mr. Callahan's financial interest. And my question to you, Mr. Callahan, is when you've got Walmart and other major competitors getting charged much less than you are, why in the world would you stick with these guys? I mean, why is it that small businesses continue to use Visa and Mastercard when you're getting charged so much more?
It's in my opinion, it's a matter of convenience for the customer, and customers matter to our business.
Maybe is it because that Visa and Mastercard are effectively monopolies? They control 80% of the market.
Certainly part of the
80% of the market. I'm just having a hard time understanding, Mr. Sheedy and Ms. Kirkpatrick. You have a business model. You're making over 50% profit margin. You are able to give the shaft to small businesses. Estimated cost to Missouri businesses from these fees is $1.5 billion. That's with a B, $billion a year. Why aren't all of these businesses running away from this model? Because they don't have a choice, because you control so much of the market. This is classic monopolistic behavior, and yet your testimony here today is you don't want any competition. You have 80% of the market, but you don't want any more competition. I'm having a hard time finding that position defensible, let alone sympathetic. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of money that you're making. It's unbelievable what you're charging small businesses and consumers, and yet your testimony is, please, we can't possibly have any competition. I mean, let's talk about what you're doing to consumers who hold your cards. Last year, as I understand it, there were 726 million Visa and Mastercard credit cards issued in the United States. That's about 2 for every 1 person in the United States of America. Do either of you know how much debt is owed on your networks, Ms. Kirkpatrick?
We're not the bank, so we don't have visibility into that information. We also don't generate revenue from interchange.
Oh, okay, you have no idea. Mr. Sheedy, do you know?
I don't know.
Well, let me help you out. Let's have a look. It's $1.17 trillion. $1.17 trillion is what consumers now owe on your credit card networks. Do either of you know what the average interest rate is on your networks? Ms. Kirkpatrick?
Oh, Senator, we're not the bank. We don't set the interchange.
I know,
we don't
but
set
you
the
benefit
rates
from it, and you know. Do you know what it is? This is your business model.
We don't collect revenue from
Mr.
interest
Sheedy,
rates.
do you know?
I don't, Senator.
I mean, do either of you read the newspaper? Forbes magazine just estimated last week that the average credit card APR in your networks is 28.75%. Average. 29%, let's call it. 29%. It's nearly doubled in the last 4 years. That is astounding, absolutely astounding. And you just testified a second ago that you've got more than 50% profit margin, and yet your testimony here today is you can't possibly survive if there's any competition. How can that be true? How can that be true? You've got debt like we've never seen before in American history. Your profit margins are as higher than they've ever been. You have 80% of the relevant market in the credit card interchange fees that we're talking about, and yet you couldn't survive if there's any competition? What am I missing? That's not a rhetorical question. How is it that you can't do any better?
Senator, we like competition very much. As my colleague from Mastercard mentioned, we don't loan money to consumers. That's the job of the banks. I will say, as it relates to small business, we care very much. And the pandemic was difficult on small business more than anyone. In 2022, we lowered rates for 90% of small businesses in the United States. I also think that many of the security and the digital features that have been put in the network help small business.
Wait a minute, but
during
wait,
the time.
but wait a minute. My time is almost expired. I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. But hold on just a second. You've increased the swipe fees consistently in the last few years. You've raised them, even as your network has expanded, even as your profit margins have gone up. You've raised the swipe fees. And in terms of competition, you are paying competitors not to enter the market. The DOJ lawsuit says that you threaten retailers with staggering financial penalties. That's a quote, staggering financial penalties if they use a competitor, and you're paying Apple and Square and others not to compete in your market. You've got 80% market share, and you are paying off would-be competitors not to come into the market while you charge people like Mr. Callahan, who knows how much more than big entities like Walmart. I mean, this is just classic collusive monopoly behavior. And your testimony is you can't accept any more competition. I agree with one thing that my colleagues down the dais have said, which is that this is not a sustainable situation. It is not sustainable. This has to change. $1.17 trillion in debt, this has to change. And I'll just end with this, Mr. Chairman. I thought one of the best proposals that the President-elect Trump, made during his last campaign, his most recent campaign, was to cap the interest rates of credit cards. So we could do that. We could do this and that. I think it's a great idea. I don't know why 30% interest rate should be charged on debt like this. I don't understand it. And I don't understand why you won't accept the smallest modicum of competition when it comes to these retailer fees. And I'm just here to tell you, this will not stand. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.